So in the first period, which we call the early formative, it's San Lorenzo, only one with heads, but it fades at 900, and then rising comes La Venta.
History gave you one explanation for these stone faces. I'm going to show you why that explanation doesn't hold up. 17 faces, Mexico, 3,000 years old, each one heavier than a large African elephant. Carved without metal tools, without wheels, without any animal strong enough to pull them. They all wear the same helmet. They all have the same expression. And the official story, that these are portraits of Olmec rulers, has always skipped over the part that matters most. The symbols carved around them tell a terrifying story, one that mainstream history has never been able to fully explain. Stay with me, because once you see what these symbols actually say, the ruler portrait theory stops making any sense at all. The discovery. In 1939, archaeologist Matthew Stirling pushed into the rainforests of Veracruz, Mexico. He was not prepared for what he found. Buried under centuries of jungle growth, massive monuments, enormous sculptures, the remains of a civilization so old it shouldn't have existed at that level of complexity. We call them the Olmec today, a name the Aztecs gave them, meaning rubber people. But the Olmec never called themselves that. We don't know what they called themselves. We don't fully understand their language. And a significant part of their world is still buried. What we do know is this. Around 1500 BCE, something happened along the Gulf Coast of Mexico. Small farming villages, practically overnight in historical terms, transformed into vast ceremonial cities. Monumental architecture, long-distance trade networks stretching hundreds of miles, complex religious symbols, early writing, advanced astronomy. Archaeologist Brian Fagan called it unusually rapid. That is an academic way of saying we don't fully understand how it happened. And the symbols they left behind, on their monuments, their altars, their ceremonial objects, are where this story gets genuinely unsettling. The heads, what we're not told. Here is what the official story says. The colossal heads are ruler portraits, monuments to powerful kings. Impressive, respectful, end of story. Here is what the official story does not explain. Every single head wears an identical style of helmet. No names, no inscriptions identifying who these rulers are, nothing. For a civilization sophisticated enough to develop early writing, that silence is strange. But the helmets are not the strangest part. Keep watching. Deep in the Tuxtla Mountains, Olmec workers carved these boulders from solid volcanic rock. One sculptor may have spent the better part of a lifetime shaping a single face, using only stone tools, smoothing the surface millimeter by millimeter, year after year. Each finished block weighed as much as a modern truck. Then they moved it. Through dense rainforest, through river crossings and swamps, over 60 miles, without wheels, without metal, without draft animals. Entire rainy seasons could halt the journey. One wrong move could kill workers outright. A single head may have required hundreds of people and years of coordinated effort. Ask yourself, why would any society do this for a ruler portrait? Paintings commemorate rulers. Inscriptions commemorate rulers. Coins commemorate rulers. You do not organize your entire civilization for years around carving a 25-ton stone face, unless it means something far more significant than a portrait. And then came the discovery that quietly rewrote everything archaeologists thought they understood about these monuments. Some of the heads were deliberately buried by the Olmec themselves, not damaged, not abandoned. Carefully, intentionally interred, placed in the earth with precision. Others were moved and repositioned by later generations. Repositioned, as if their location still mattered centuries after they were carved. Ritual renewal, a change in political power, something being hidden. Archaeology has no consensus answer. But when you look at the symbols surrounding these heads, the imagery carved into every surface of Olmec culture, a very different picture begins to emerge. The symbols, the terrifying story. This is where the story shifts, because the Olmec did not just build heads, they filled their world with a very specific set of symbols. And those symbols appear everywhere, from their smallest jade carvings to their largest stone altars. The ruler portrait theory was the comfortable answer, but the symbols don't support it, and the deeper you look, the more terrifying the picture becomes. The most dominant image in Olmec art is something researchers call the Were-Jaguar. Human figures, sometimes infants, with fanged mouths, snarling expressions, and jaguar features. Not decorative, systematic, repeated across centuries and hundreds of artifacts. The jaguar was the most powerful predator in the region. It hunted at night. It crossed between land and water. In later Mesoamerican cultures, it symbolized the boundary between the human world and the supernatural one. What the Olmec symbols appear to be communicating is this: their rulers were not human, or rather, they were no longer fully human. The transformation imagery suggests that true authority required crossing into something else entirely. And the altars, what archaeologists diplomatically call thrones, make this even harder to dismiss. At Venta, one of the great Olmec cities, researchers found massive carved stone thrones. They depict figures seated inside cave openings, emerging from the earth itself. The city around them was no accident. Mounds, plazas, and monuments were aligned with astronomical precision. This was not a settlement. It was a constructed cosmology, a physical model of how the Olmec understood the universe. Caves in virtually every Mesoamerican culture that followed meant one thing: a gateway to the underworld. These rulers were not sitting on thrones. They were depicted as beings who had passed through the boundary between worlds and come back. And then archaeologists found the objects the Olmec used in their rituals. And what those objects reveal is something no ruler portrait theory can explain, which is exactly why the bloodletting rituals make a terrifying kind of sense. Beneath the ceremonial platforms of Venta, archaeologists found stingray spines and ritual tools used to pierce the body, used in ceremonies that, in later Mesoamerican cultures, symbolized communication with ancestors and gods. The ritual ballgame, which the Olmec helped establish, carried stakes that could include death. It was not sport. It was a reenactment of cosmic forces, a performance of the boundary between life and what lay beyond it. Every symbol, every ritual, every monument pointed to the same idea. Power was not political, it was supernatural. And the colossal heads may have been less about who these rulers were, and more about what they had become. The silence and the spread. The Olmec also tracked time. They developed early writing systems and calendrical concepts that later civilizations, the Maya, the Zapotec, refined into some of the most precise astronomical calendars in human history. Many of their inscriptions remain undeciphered. Whatever they recorded in stone, we cannot fully read it. And then, around 400 BCE, the Olmec simply stopped. Venta was abandoned. San Lorenzo had already gone quiet centuries before. Scholars suggest volcanic eruptions, river course changes, political collapse, competing powers. No single explanation holds. But here is what is certain. Their symbols did not die with their cities. Olmec imagery spread across thousands of miles from central Mexico to Central America, absorbed into every major civilization that followed. The Maya, the Aztec. Cultures that built empires used Olmec symbols as their foundation. Whatever the Olmec understood about power, transformation, and the boundary between worlds, they made sure it survived them. And that is the part that changes everything, because civilizations that collapse take their ideas with them. Their pottery breaks, their cities burn, their gods are forgotten. The Olmec did the opposite. They handed their beliefs to the next civilization, and the next, and the next. For 2,000 years, their symbols kept moving. That is not the behavior of a culture that died. That is the behavior of a culture that planned to continue. Think about what it took to put them there. Not just the labor, the years, the hundreds of workers, the rivers crossed, the mountains carved into. Think about the decision behind it. Someone decided these faces needed to exist. Someone decided they needed to be this large. Someone decided they needed to face forward, not inward, not skyward. Forward, toward us. And then, generations later, someone decided to bury them, not destroy them. Bury them, carefully, precisely, as if they were being stored, as if whoever buried them expected someone to find them again. That's the part that stays with me, because objects that are meant to be forgotten get destroyed. Objects that are buried with that kind of care are waiting. Archaeologists have been excavating this region for nearly a century, and every few years, something new comes out of the ground. A new inscription, a new monument, a new piece of the system. Each one slightly changes what we thought we knew. Each one opens a question that the previous answer had closed. Right now, somewhere beneath the jungle floor of Mexico's Gulf Coast, there are things we haven't found yet, things the Olmec put there, things they wanted to survive. The question is not whether we'll find them. The question is whether, when we do,